Hey, this is One Take Frank, and this morning I'm going to show you how to make percolated coffee. I had mentioned it in my budget breakfast sandwich episode, and I got a couple requests that came in, and they said that they wanted to actually see how to make it because they've never seen coffee made in a percolator before. So I'm going to show you today. It's really easy to do, and I will tell you it's going to probably be some of the best coffee you ever drank, and you're going to be able to make it right here in your own kitchen. So this is the coffee pot we're going to use. This is a typical percolator that you would get. They come in all kinds. There's usually one's made out of Pyrex, another clear glass. That is a Pyrex glass that won't break on the stove. And there's all different variations. This is a stovetop percolator. They also make them that are electric. So I just want to show you real quick, because there's not much to make in the pot of coffee. But these are the components that are inside this percolator, okay, in case you've never seen it before. So basically you have a pot, okay, and you're going to fill the pot with water. It'll make a total of 8 cups. Now, how far you fill it in the pot, it depends on the pot you buy. Sometimes there's measurements inside the pot. This particular one does not have that. So the rule is when it doesn't have a measurement and you want a full pot of coffee, you fill it to the bottom of the hole in the spout. Now, I don't know if you could see it. You're probably not going to be able to see it because it's dark in this pot. But there's a hole in the pot where the coffee comes out to the spout. You fill it to the bottom of that hole. So that'll give you a full pot of coffee. Okay. Now the coffee comes with this. It's like it's called a percolator tube, and what this does is it's kind of made in such a way that it's kind of pressed on the bottom, and that when you put it on the bottom of the pot, when there's water in the pot, if you ever see a pot boil when the water's boiling in the pot, the bubbles form at the bottom. They start just coming to the top, right? So what this does is it captures those bubbles and it pushes up through the percolator tube. That'll come up the tube into the coffee filter. This is like a filter basket that you put your coffee in, and this basket is made up of like holes on the bottom. It's kind of strategically weighed the way it's pressed, so the coffee can drip through here. So you can put this on top of your percolating tube. Your coffee goes into the filter basket, and then you put this lid on top of your filter basket, okay? And this whole device goes into your coffee pot in the water, okay? So when the water starts to boil, it goes up through this percolating tube, through the dome of the lid of the pot, and you can actually see the water start to bubble in this little clear part right here. Now, when you buy a pot, it's typically very clear, but over time, it'll start getting tinted or tainted with the coffee that keeps percolating through, so it'll kind of get tinted like you can see here, which is a well-used pot, because I pretty much use it every day. And you'll see the coffee percolating through the pot, and then it goes back through the percolator. It'll fill back into the top of this filter basket. It'll seep through, go in through the coffee that's in the coffee basket, and drip down into the coffee that's in the pot. So when that happens over a series of times, it starts actually cooking the coffee. The boiling water goes into this filter basket, and it will actually produce the coffee into the pot. It'll turn the water into coffee. Is basically what's happening in a coffee pot, right? So that's what you want to happen. And because the water is boiling hot, that's what actually cooks the coffee, and I believe that's why you get a perfect cup of coffee every time. Okay. So with that all being said, so you got an idea of the components that are in the coffee pot. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to fill this coffee pot, and I use filtered water, to the bottom of that hole in the coffee pot. Now, you know, coffee pretty much is pretty easy to make. It's just really, all you really did over the years is just drop coffee grinds into boiling water and you let it boil. And once the boiling stops, you let the coffee grinds settle to the bottom of the pot. And once they settle to the bottom of the pot, you just pour off the coffee off the top. All this does is it kind of contains your coffee grinds in this basket, so you don't tend to get a lot of grinds on the bottom of the coffee pot, but you still tend to get a few grinds, so I do let it settle afterwards, okay? So once I put the water in the pot, I'm going to take my percolating tube with the filter basket together, put it inside the pot, okay? Then it's all according to your taste. Now, I will tell you this is a very economical way to make a pot of coffee, because you typically get a can of coffee when you get it on sale. It's usually no more than $2 a can, okay? Sometimes it's even less. So I've used 4 different brands of coffee, and they all work great. people seem to think this coffee tastes great when I, serve it at home, or if I put it in the thermos and bring it to work. People try it, they think it's the best coffee. They always ask me, hey, how did you make this coffee? And I tell them I make it at home with a percolator. And typically, a younger generation of people, they don't even know what I'm talking about. A percolator, what's that? It's not a Keurig, it's not, an automatic drip. No, it's a percolator, and this is how you make it. So, in the filter basket, I put 7 heaping teaspoons this size in here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now that's the way I like it. You can always adjust the taste, okay? And one suggestion I want to make too, when you do buy a brand new percolator, it has to be seasoned. So after maybe 2 or 3 pots of coffee, the coffee will taste a lot better. I noticed myself when I first bought this coffee pot, I noticed the first few pots tasted a little tinny for some reason. And speaking to some people, they said that's because you got to cook a few pots before you actually get a good cup of coffee. So anyway, my coffee is in the filter basket. I'm going to put the filter lid over the filter basket, and I'm going to place the lid on it. Make sure it's on firm, because you don't want this to pop off through the percolation process, okay? Because then it'll obviously make a mess. I'm going to just take this pot, I'm going to put it on my stove, and I'm going to set the temperature for high. And I'm going to let that go until it comes to a boil. You know it's boiling because, number one, you're going to hear it start to percolate, okay? And once it starts percolating kind of vigorously, and you start seeing it bubbling into the top, that's when I put the timer for 3 minutes. And all you do is let it boil for 3 minutes. Once you're done with the 3-minute mark, you turn the gas or the stove off, and you're going to let it settle. I usually settle for about 2 or 3 minutes, so if there's any coffee grinds in here, it'll just be able to settle to the bottom, and I'll be able to pour out off the coffee off the top into my cup. So with that being said, we're going to wait until it starts percolating, and we'll be right back. We're back now. If you take a look at the coffee pot now, see how it's percolating, and it's really like a vigorous percolate. It's kind of boiling right into the little glass window right here. Once it starts percolating that much, that's when you start the timer. So we have about 30 seconds left to let this boil for a little while longer, and then we're going to turn the stove off. I do this on a high heat on an electric stove. I think if you have a gas stove, you don't have to leave it that high. You can actually adjust your temperature. But the key is you want it to be really percolating at a very vigorous boil. So we're just going to kind of wait for that to do that. While I was where we were breaking to wait for the start boiling and get ready, I was just thinking too, I mentioned about, you pay $2 for a can of coffee. I just did a little math. 1 can of coffee, there's our timer. I'm going to turn the stove off. I'm going to let it sit for a couple minutes just like this on the burner, just to go a little bit longer, just with the heat on the burner with the stove turned off. Then I'm going to just move it, let it rest for a minute, which I could probably start doing now. So I'm going to move it, let it rest so the coffee will settle to the bottom, okay? So anyway, while that's doing that, so I was doing a little math. I figure 1 can of coffee, if you make a 6-ounce cup of coffee, and depending upon how you like your coffee, if you use like, the 7 spoons that I did, or if you like a little stronger, a little weaker, you could probably get anywhere from like 40 to 60 cups of coffee out of 1 can. So you think about it, you're getting like 60 cups of coffee for like $2. That's a really good deal. So just something to think about. And, I was also thinking about another thing too. While we got time for this to rest, when you watch these Western shows and they always got, they're always gathered around the fire at night and they got their coffee pot next to the fire. That's all they're doing with those coffee pots are. They're just getting a pot of water. They're just dropping coffee grinds in it and leaving it overnight by the fire, and that's just kind of slowly just cooking overnight. And they kind of swirl around once in a while just to get the coffee going. But those grinds are always on the bottom, and they're just pouring the coffee over the top. So again, it's just really boiling water with coffee grinds in it. Makes your best coffee. So I think that's settled enough. I'm going to just bring it right over here to our counter. I should get a little trivet here first. It just so happens I got a matching trivet to match our cup. Okay, so I'm going to just pour my coffee in. Now, I don't know how many viewers out there like black coffee, but if you're not a fan of black coffee, I mean, I am, because again, I'm just don't like the sugar, the cream is just extra. But I'm going to just take a sip first with it just being black. And again, this is a really hot cup of coffee. So you got to really be careful. Oh man, that is really, really good. And again, if you're not a black coffee drinker, if you try this and just try your coffee black a couple times, you might get used to it because it really comes out very, very good when it's black like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little creamer. Now, personally, you can use cream, milk, again, anything you would normally put in your coffee, you put in here. I'm using the unsweetened vanilla almond milk. I'm going to just swirl that around in here. And I'm going to give that another taste. Oh man, that is an excellent, excellent cup of coffee. This cup of coffee, paired with whatever you like. You can even pair it with a little Biscotti on the side, is how I like to do it. And there you have it. A cup of percolated coffee. Easy to do, pretty economical, and that's it. It's One Take Frank. Till we see you again, God bless you guys, and if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, and we're good to go. See you next time. I'm going to just try this little biscotti with our coffee that we made here. Oh, now that is right out of the fountain of youth.